This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Alright, so to follow on from the video yesterday where I was looking at the WBO, WBA and IBF world rankings and their absolute shambles as to why they have certain people in certain positions, I will never know. And a lot of you guys seem to enjoy that video, first of all, so thank you very much. And second of all, a lot of people in the comment section will say, well, what would my top 15 be like? Now, I don't usually like doing this kind of thing because obviously nobody's ever going to have or pull out 15 names and everybody agrees with, okay? But again, there's a lot of subjectivity to it, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway and give you guys my top 15. Now, first of all, we have to exclude the two champions, so Joshua Wilder, off you go. And we're going to have a look at what my top 15 would look like. Again, I think that a lot of people, you may not necessarily agree with the order, but you probably agree that these are probably should be in the top 15, give or take. Anyway, let's start off with number 15. Daniel Dubois would be 15th for me. Based on the fact, while, yes, he's a super talent and he could go on to become world heavyweight champion, hopefully he does, and his career, in my opinion, is going in the right direction. I think he's been guided correctly. I think that the fights that he has been taking have been appropriate. I know some people may disagree with that. They expect a step up, and I get that. Us as boxing fans, we're impatient, but this is about the long-term gain, in my opinion. So right now, while Daniel Dubois hasn't really beaten anybody outstanding, he's done very, very well right now. So for me, he will get into my top 15. Number 14, King Kong Luis Ortiz. Now, I know a lot of people, especially the Wilder Nut Huggers, will say that he's in the top 5 or whatever it may be. But he's lost 2 of his last 5 fights. 2. And he's been professional for quite some time now. Is it 10 years now? And he hasn't beaten anybody that'll make you go, oh, that was a good victory. His biggest name is Bryant Jennings, who came off of a loss himself to Vladimir Klitschko the very fight beforehand. Outside of that, you're looking at a Tony Thompson. He was struggling with certain fighters. And as I said, he's lost 2 of his last 5 fights by knockout. But is he a top 15? I could quite feasibly not put him in there, but he is a top fighter. So for me, he is in the top 14. Number 13, Derek Chisora. Now, Derek Chisora, yes, he's had multiple losses up and down his career. But again, I'm looking at it from recent history, not all time, okay? But recent history, he seems to have improved a hell of a lot ever since he teamed up with David Haye. Quite what's happening there, no idea. But you wouldn't write off Derek Chisora beating anybody, would you? When Derek Chisora turns up, you wouldn't go against him defeating anybody. Right? And I think Derek Chisora is a top 15 heavyweight, in my opinion. Anyway, number 12, Big Baby Jarrell Miller. Now, that's going to get a few oohs and ahs right there, obviously because of what happened with the whole PED and Anthony Joshua situation. I get it. But inside the ring, he's been looking pretty good, hasn't he? We can attribute that to whatever you want to attribute it to. But he has taken on some relatively decent opposition with the few fights that he's had. And he's dominated all of them. He's never really been in trouble. He's never hit the canvas to my knowledge. So I think Miller, again, he can mix it with any of them. Again, as I said, there will be some controversy with me putting a Big Baby Jarrell Miller in there. And I think a lot of people would probably disagree with it purely because they don't like him. And I get it. But for me, I think that he's a top 15 fighter. Number 11, Joe Joyce, the Juggernaut. Again, very, very short professional career as an amateur, accomplished so much. And in his very short professional career already, is it 10 fights now? He's looking pretty damn good. And his level of opposition has been outstanding for the amount of fights that he's had. He may have had a couple of hairy moments here and there. Yes, he's a little, or he appears to be quite easy to hit and he seems quite slow, but he's effective. And in my opinion, I think Joe Joyce is a top 15 fighter. And yes, I do put him above previously on my number 15 in Daniel Dubois. That doesn't necessarily mean that I believe Joe Joyce beats Dubois. Not at all. It's heavyweight boxing. Any of these guys can beat each other, in my opinion. So anyway, Joe Joyce, number 11. Number 10, Kubrat Pulev. Now, I was in two minds whether or not to put him in there in the top 10 at all, because he hasn't really been doing too much lately. But he has been in there with some of the top fighters around. He's already beaten a Derek Chisora. He went in there with a Vladimir Klitschko. He's now mandatory for Anthony Joshua for the second time. And he has a recent victory over Hughie Fury in that as well. So Kubrat Pulev, he is an elite athlete. It's just that something seems to be missing from him. And I think it's bravery. I think it's a bit of heart. But I think that he's a very, very dangerous, credible opponent. And he's been a top 10 heavyweight consistently across most sanctioning bodies for quite a few years. So he's got to be pretty good, right? Anyway, he's number 10. Number 9, Filip Hrgović. Again, very few fights. He's only had, again, I probably believe about 10 fights, I think it is. But again, his level of opposition, for the amount of fights that he's had, he's looking pretty good. Never really in trouble. Outstanding punch output, power. Looks the real deal. He fights, in my opinion, like Vitaly Klitschko. I believe that he could go on to become the man in the heavyweight division in a couple of years' time. But right now, is he a top 15 heavyweight? I believe he just about edges it in there. Number 8, Michael Hunter. Now, a year ago, I probably wouldn't have put Michael Hunter in there. But what he's done at heavyweight, again, is pretty good. Pretty good. He nearly beat Alexander Povetkin in his last fight. Povetkin is an outstanding elite fighter. Won everything that there is to win, amateur and pro. Michael Hunter, in my opinion, just about edged that fight, but officially it was a draw and some people had Povetkin winning, and I'm not going to argue with it. But Hunter, he's got a win over Martin Bakole, who, let's be honest, Martin Bakole, not too many of the top guys want to fight a Martin Bakole. He's a very, very good fighter. He gave Alexander Usyk all he could handle. He ultimately lost to Alexander Usyk, but there's no shame in that. But either way, I think Michael Hunter is an exceptional fighter. Number 7, as I said right there, Alexander Povetkin. Outstanding fighter with a excellent resume. Devastating left hook. Very, very intelligent in the ring. You have to be something good to beat an Alexander Povetkin. Yes, he's getting on in age a little bit, but again, as my video a few days ago, when I did the comparison between Povetkin and Ortiz, shows that Povetkin is head and shoulders above Luis Ortiz. Head and shoulders in every kind of category that you could possibly have. Alexander Povetkin is a top 15 heavyweight. Now he's number 7 for me. Number 6, Andy Ruiz Jr. Now, I've always rated Andy Ruiz Jr., and I know a lot of people didn't really know too much about him until the Anthony Joshua fight. But he's always been a very, very good fighter. Never been chinned, never been on the canvas, even as an amateur, to my knowledge. And he went the distance with Joseph Parker for the WBO World Heavyweight title in New Zealand. And a lot of people would say that that's a bit of an arguable decision. Okay, either way, very, very close fight. He's always been a very, very good fighter. People look at him physically and go, nah. But he is. And he proved it against Anthony Joshua the first time round. Again, a lot of it, maybe it was down to the fact that Anthony Joshua wasn't quite with it on that night or whatever it may be. But fact is, Joshua does hold a win over Anthony Joshua. How could you not put him in there? So for me, Andy Ruiz Jr., number 6. Number 5, Joseph Parker. Again, that's probably going to get a few oohs and ahs. But Joseph Parker, when he's on his form, is a phenomenal fighter. Not as active as I would like, and at times not as aggressive as I would like. The old Joseph Parker was very, very aggressive, but he does hold some pretty good wins for his, let's be honest, quite a short career. WBO World Heavyweight Champion. He's the guy who has defeated Andy Ruiz Jr. He's defeated Hughie Fury. He defeated Carlos Takam, when you could probably argue Carlos Takam was probably at his peak. He's got 2 losses to Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. Again, no shame in losing to either of those. And he went the distance with both of them. So Joseph Parker should be in there, in my opinion. Number 4, undefeated Polish-American Adam Kownacki. Again, looking really, really good. Don't get me wrong, I'm not happy about his next opponent in Robert Helenius. But again, with a short career that he's had already, I think it's about 20 fights now, I think. He's got some pretty good wins for the amount of fights that he's had. And he's ranked quite highly with most of the sanctioned bodies. I think he's got top 3 for most of them. Adam Kownacki is an exceptional fighter. Exceptional. So in my opinion, he deserves that kind of position. Number 3, Alexander Usyk. We could base it off of heavyweight. If we were just going to base it off of heavyweight achievements, no, Usyk wouldn't be in there at all, would he? But former undisputed cruiserweight world champion. mandatory challenger for the WBO. Could be taken on Anthony Joshua or a vacant belt against Joseph Parker. So ultimately, we'll get to see what kind of mettle that he has. But so far in his career, again, very, very short career, he's a guy who's gone to all kinds of different countries and won world titles against opponents in their backyard. He's proven to be the real deal so far. Of course, the next couple of fights we'll really get to see. But right now, of what we've seen so far, exceptional. Number 2, Tyson Fury. Now, yes, some people could have him as number 1. I don't really have a problem with that. But I'm not really factoring in the Klitschko fight too much. I have to a little bit, of course. But that was 5 years ago. Well, about 4.5 years ago or whatever. But it's a long time ago. Is he the same fighter now as what he once was? It's debatable, isn't it? We don't know yet. Fighting Sefer Seferi, Francesco Pianeta, Otto Wallin, and Tom Schwartz. Do they really give a good resume for a lineal heavyweight champion? Not really. I mean, again, we could probably argue about Otto Wallin. Maybe Otto Wallin is so much better than maybe what we thought. And I did toy about putting him in at number 15, to be honest with you, with Otto Wallin based on that performance. But yes, again, Fury, he did go over to America and beat Deontay Wilder. Absolutely. But again, we don't know how good Wilder is, do we? People keep saying how he's a one-trick pony, so it shouldn't be too difficult for a man of Tyson Fury's skills, inactive or not, to beat Deontay Wilder on points, which ultimately he did, in most people's opinion. So, again, if anybody has him as number 1, I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. Again, whether he's the same guy as he was back in 2015 when he defeated Klitschko remains to be seen, but ultimately, he's still exceptional, is he not? Absolutely exceptional. And if he does beat Wilder and actually gets that belt, especially knocking him out, yeah, I'll put him in at number 1 myself. Anyway, number 1, the body snatcher, Dillian Whyte. Outstanding, absolutely outstanding resume. Outstanding. Now, again, a lot of people will say, but Dillian Whyte, he beat Lucas Brown. He won all that. Okay. But nobody else had defeated Lucas Brown at that point. He did. He was the first person to knock out Lucas Brown. Robert Helenius was meant to be the next Vladimir Klitschko. He defeated Derek Chisora twice. A turned up, ready to fight Derek Chisora. The most dangerous Derek Chisora you could get. Very, very close fight in the first one. Yes, he was losing the second one, but he knew that he was going to catch Chisora. He played dice with it, and it paid off for him. He knocked out Derek Chisora. But only the second person to actually legitimately knock him out, as in put him down and keep him down. Joseph Parker. He was the first person to ever knock Joseph Parker to the canvas, amateur, pro, and in sparring. His improvement is outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And he's always taking tough fights. He's always taking risks. Look at him when he fought Oscar Rivas. He wasn't mentally ready for Oscar Rivas because of everything that was happening with UCAD. But he still managed to outbox an Olympian. And this is a guy who in himself has only had, 6 amateur fights or something like that? Look at the improvements ever since he lost to Joshua. Look at the improvements. He's arguably the most dangerous man on the planet. Nobody would ever get in the ring with Dillian Whyte thinking 100% I'm beating him. You can never ever write him off. So for me, he is the number 1 heavyweight right now. Anyway, that's my thoughts. You drop me yours, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.